This chilling story from California, which shook the public in October 2010, still sparks debate. Its main character is currently trying to secure her release by appealing to insanity. However, the question arises, is it possible for a person who committed such a heinous crime to return to society? It all began with the birth of twins Tori and Lily Ball in September 2007. Their parents, Monica McCarrick and Michael Ball, were living in San Diego at the time. The couple's relationship had been strained from the start due to their 10-year age difference. However, the main problem was Monica's addiction to illicit substances, which led to regular run-ins with law enforcement. Moreover, her aggressive behavior resulted in an arrest for domestic violence in 2006. Despite receiving a suspended sentence, the aggressive outbursts continued, ultimately destroying the marriage. After the divorce in 2009, Michael initiated a legal battle for full custody of the children. Around the same time, Robert Paulson, Monica's first love whom she had known for over a decade, re-entered her life. Their reunion took place through social media. On Thanksgiving 2009, Monica came across his profile and sent him a message. Initially, they communicated as friends since Robert was in a relationship with another woman. A fateful turn of events occurred in April 2010 when Robert's girlfriend took her own life using his gun. It turned out that Robert was a weapons collector. His house contained a significant arsenal of firearms and bladed weapons, including a samurai sword and a rifle. As a longtime friend, Monica helped Robert cope with the loss, which eventually evolved into a romantic relationship. May 2010 marked Monica's move to Pennsylvania with her children. Things progressed rapidly. Within a few days, the couple got engaged. Life seemed to be improving. Monica had overcome her addiction, worked as an administrator at a dental clinic, pursued education, and devotedly cared for her children. Robert also felt happy. However, this idyllic period proved to be deceptive. August 2010 brought new changes as the family relocated to California, preparing for their upcoming wedding. They settled in a rented apartment in a residential complex in Fairfield. Monica focused on enrolling the children in school and obtaining her dental assistant license. Robert, who had become the family's sole breadwinner, fully supported her endeavors, admiring her maternal qualities and desire to provide a decent future for the children. During this period, Monica showed no signs of aggression. The nature of Robert's work in a film crew required frequent and prolonged business trips. On September 9, 2010, just a month after the move, he was urgently called to a shoot in Minnesota. Monica, who had not yet managed to settle all the issues related to their new place, took the news hard but had to come to terms with her fiancé's departure. The first 3 weeks passed peacefully, but then Robert noticed alarming changes in his fiancé's behavior. The reason for concern was her reaction to a script that Robert had co-written. The horror story about a man stalking children on a beach ended with the death of all the characters. Monica was convinced that this story was a veiled threat to her and her children, although Robert insisted on the purely professional nature of the text. In subsequent conversations, she constantly returned to this topic. Later, Monica began accusing Robert of the death of his previous girlfriend, claiming that her suicide was provoked by his infidelity and indifference. Despite Robert's numerous attempts to reassure his fiancée through phone calls and correspondence, she found new grounds for suspicion. Acquaintances noted growing paranoia in her behavior. Monica felt that she and the children were being watched and were in danger. In one of the group chats, friends even jokingly advised Robert to end the relationship. Monica insisted on his constant presence at home, categorically objecting to long business trips. Robert tried to calm her down, assuring her that he would return from Minnesota soon. The situation drastically worsened when, on the eve of his expected return, the management sent Robert to Alaska for another 50 days to shoot additional scenes at a newly found ideal location. This news triggered a genuine emotional breakdown in Monica. She desperately tried to convince her fiancé to return, begged for help, threw tantrums, and complained about her inability to cope on her own. Despite understanding the situation, Robert could not change his work schedule and could only ask her to be patient, reminding her of the support from relatives. The fiancé's unstable mental state concerned not only Robert but also friends who kept in touch with her mainly through text messages. On September 25, in correspondence with her friend Regan, Monica expressed fear for her life, claiming that Robert and his mother could harm her, and asked him to contact the police in case of their disappearance. That same day, she shared her fears with her friend Maritza, expressing suspicions about her fiancé and his family, again emphasizing the sense of danger to herself and the children. Maritza, concerned about the content of the messages, called Monica. The conversation revealed that the source of her fears was the same script with a detailed description of the murder of a woman and children. Although her friend managed to temporarily calm Monica down, the relief was short-lived. 3 days later, on September 29, Maritza received an even more alarming message. Monica was convinced that someone planned to kidnap her children and kill her. Simultaneously, she turned to another friend, Pamela, repeating the warnings about the danger posed by her future husband. Although Monica admitted the possibility of paranoid delusions, her fear was quite real. She again asked them to contact the police in case of their disappearance and to ensure punishment for Robert. Pamela, who usually came to support her friend, could not do so this time because she was staying with her mother in another location. The communication ended with Monica's statement about her intention to prove Robert's involvement in the death of his former girlfriend, Jill. At the same time, her messages were full of contradictions. Among complaints about the exhausting stress of raising children and feelings of helplessness in solving problems on her own, there was a desire for help. These grievances seemed strange given that Robert was working hard for the family's well-being. Paradoxically, at the same time, Monica often spoke about her desire for freedom, entertainment, and relaxation, justifying it by her youth. Those who knew her well noted her tendency to exaggerate. In reality, she had significant support. The biological father of the girls in San Diego regularly picked them up, giving Monica a chance to rest. Numerous friends and relatives were ready to help, her friend Pamela in Los Angeles, Maritza nearby, her mother and grandmother in San Diego. Although not everyone could instantly respond to her requests for help, any of her loved ones could reach her within a few hours and provide the necessary support. Notably, while living in Pennsylvania, Monica demonstrated a much more balanced behavior and successfully coped with everyday challenges on her own. However, the move to California, where all her relatives and friends lived, paradoxically provoked emotional outbursts due to Robert's departures, possibly because his business trips had not been so long before. From September 29 to October 4, 2010, Monica and her children stayed with her mother in San Diego. There, she showed her mother the same script that had caused her such intense fear. She explained her fears in detail, convinced that the story was written about her and her children. The young mother was particularly concerned about the arsenal of weapons kept at home, supposedly for protection. She expressed suspicions that Robert planned to use these weapons against them and shared her fears about the upcoming wedding with her mother. The mother tried to dispel her concerns. After this conversation, a notable change in mood occurred. Monica went to choose a wedding dress. It seemed that her anxieties had dissipated. She radiated joy, took pictures in the chosen dress, and sent the photos to friends and relatives, including her paternal grandmother, Terry Faye, with whom she maintained regular communication and often met. October 1 was marked by a nighttime phone conversation with Terry, during which Monica again returned to her fears of losing her daughters and threats to her own life. The grandmother noticed a striking change in her granddaughter's behavior. If previously her complaints seemed like a way to attract attention and gain support, now she showed clear signs of inadequacy, making contradictory statements and reacting unnaturally to logical arguments. The whole situation seemed paradoxical. A woman who had traveled a great distance in search of a better life next to her family, aspired to marry Robert and share a future with her children, while at the same time suffering from constant fear for her life, complaining about work, her husband, and his hobbies. Despite her fear of her fiancé, she persistently moved towards marriage with him. During this time, her ex-husband continued to fight for full custody of the twins. Meanwhile, Robert's mother, Roxanne Paulson, became increasingly concerned about the state of her future daughter-in-law. In her son's absence, she observed Monica's gradual loss of self-control. At first, she seemed confident, but over time, her mental instability became more and more evident. Roxanne tried to support her daughter-in-law by helping with the children and giving her a chance to rest, often inviting them to her place. A particularly alarming incident occurred during another overnight stay of Monica and her children at Roxanne's house in Robert's absence. Around 3 o'clock in the morning, for no apparent reason, Monica suddenly began packing. Hearing the commotion, Robert's mother came out to find out what was going on. Pointing to a car parked nearby, Monica expressed her conviction that she was being watched. Roxanne, knowing that it was a neighbor's car, a longtime resident of the area and an exemplary family man who had simply returned late from work, tried to reassure her future daughter-in-law. However, her explanations had no effect. Monica, taking her daughters, immediately went home, incessantly repeating her sense of danger. Interestingly, once in her own apartment with the girls, she calmed down and sent her mother-in-law a message in the morning saying that she felt fine. On October 11, 2010, the same day grandmother Terry noticed strange changes in her granddaughter's behavior, a new incident occurred. Monica called Roxanne at work, informing her about the visit of a delivery service courier whom she suspected of being involved in a conspiracy against her. Roxanne's attempts to calm her down proved futile. Later, Monica contacted her mother, but since she was at work, she could not devote much time to her and asked her daughter not to bother her without urgent need. Monica replied that everything was fine and ended the conversation. The following morning, October 12, a parking issue arose. The assistant manager of the apartment complex tried to contact Monica because her car had blocked several parking spaces. When he knocked on the apartment door, Monica, gripped by fear, refused to open it. However, the car problem needed to be resolved, so the complex employee persistently persuaded her through the door. After lengthy negotiations, Monica finally agreed to come out and move the car. At that moment, the assistant manager noticed her daughters, Tori and Lily, in the apartment, who seemed to be doing well. Later, Monica called work, explaining her absence by the need to visit a beauty salon to prepare for the wedding rehearsal. The manager who took her call noticed a child crying in the background. Soon, communication with Robert took place, by phone and through messages. He was struck by the chaotic nature of her texts. She wrote incoherently about robots, butterflies, animals, and inserted inappropriate quotes. The only more or less comprehensible part, as Robert assumed, concerned the children. The message contained the phrase, "Let the rabbits go forever." He connected this with the ongoing custody battle, where there was a real threat that the court could transfer Lily and Tori to their biological father, depriving Monica of parental rights due to her past problems with illicit substances and mental health. However, due to his workload, Robert did not pay due attention to this message. That evening, their phone conversation took on an eerie character. Monica spoke incoherently, obviously moving around the apartment, as evidenced by the constant background noise. She dropped the phone several times, immediately calling back. Then she asked Robert to call future events an accident. Although the content of her words remained unclear, they sounded ominous. She repeated that if Tori and Lily were all right, it should be considered an accident, adding her intention to light a fire together with the girls. Suddenly, a fire alarm sounded in the phone conversation, followed by a woman's scream, after which the connection was cut off. Robert, gripped by anxiety, made several unsuccessful attempts to call his fiancée and then turned to the emergency services with a request to check the house. Being far from the scene, he could not even imagine the scale of the unfolding tragedy, which went beyond not only common sense but also human nature. The horrifying details were revealed later. After feeding her daughters, the mother tied them to high chairs, then took a samurai sword katana from the wall of Robert's office. With inhuman cruelty, she dealt with the twins in a matter of minutes. Using their bodies as a barricade for the front door, she set the apartment on fire. The defenseless children had no chance of escape, their screams quickly died down. The neighbors heard only short-lived crying and minor noise, which did not arouse particular suspicion. The alarm was raised only after the fire alarm went off, but it was too late. When a neighbor from the lower floor, noticing the smoke, called the rescuers, one of the residents tried to break into the apartment, first through the door and then through the sliding window. Despite the apartment being on the third floor, the neighbor managed to get inside. In the thick smoke, he barely made it to the room where the murder had taken place. The scene was horrific. The floor was covered in blood, the murder weapon, a sword, and a medicine bottle. It was no longer possible to help the 3-year-old girls, and the neighbor was powerless. Before the arrival of the rescuers, the situation was complicated by the fact that the children's bodies, which were blocking the front door, hindered access to the fire source. After considerable effort, the rescuers managed to get inside. The apartment was filled with smoke. The main fire was located in a closet near the front door. When the fire was extinguished and the smoke cleared, they discovered the bloody bodies of the children. Monica was found unconscious in the kitchen, with numerous serious injuries that she had apparently inflicted on herself. She was urgently taken to the medical center in critical condition. The nature of her injuries was horrific: multiple wounds on the neck and arms, severed fingers, cut tendons on the hands. She had also cut both of her Achilles tendons, damaged her ankles, and inflicted a deep wound on her thigh. During the search of the apartment, a significant arsenal of weapons was discovered: a rifle, a shotgun, a loaded pistol in the desk, and a large number of combat rounds. In the corridor, they found the sword and a lighter used to set the closet on fire. The high chairs were overturned and covered in blood. The crime scene indicated that the attack had occurred during the children's dinner. A tray with plates and food was scattered on the floor, and a TV with cartoons was still on opposite. Water was running from the tap, and the kitchen table was covered in blood, with noticeable traces of attempts to wash it off. On a stool in the bathroom, they found a book, a thriller by James Patterson about a serial killer, open to a page with the words, "My daughter is dead." Analysis of the found pill bottle did not reveal any dangerous or potent drugs in it. The autopsy results revealed horrifying details. On Tori's body, forensic experts counted 11 cut wounds on the face, a particularly deep wound in the neck area, 9 deep cut wounds on the chest, and 2 stab wounds, one of which damaged the lung and the other pierced the heart. Lily suffered equally terrible injuries: 5 cut wounds on the face and neck, 9 on the chest, and an almost complete decapitation with one powerful blow that severed the larynx and carotid artery. Numerous wounds on the girls' hands indicated their desperate resistance. The absence of soot in both children's lungs confirmed that they were already dead at the time of the fire. The unprecedented brutality of this murder shocked all the specialists involved in the investigation. Immediately after being discharged from the hospital, 27-year-old Monica was taken into custody, charged with 2 counts of premeditated murder, arson, and attempted destruction of evidence and obstruction of the investigation. On October 26, 2010, Monica, confined to a wheelchair and completely bandaged, appeared in court. She pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity and was referred for a psychiatric evaluation. During the period from October 2010 to June 2011, a prison psychiatrist conducted over 10 sessions with the defendant, spending about 20 hours communicating with her. He performed a comprehensive examination that included numerous psychological tests, studied her medical records, and talked to her loved ones. It was revealed that at the age of 14, she had already shown a tendency to self-harm. At that time, she was diagnosed with a form of attention deficit disorder. The prescribed treatment was not completed. Instead, the girl began abusing illicit substances, which later led to the development of bipolar disorder. According to the defendant's own testimony, she started consuming alcohol at the age of 12, switched to marijuana at 14, and by the age of 18, it had grown into a serious drug addiction. In 2003 to 2005, while living in San Diego, she was treated for depression and received professional psychiatric help. During the investigation, it was discovered that after Robert's departure, Monica had returned to using illicit substances and actively used them throughout September and October 2010. She spoke about paranoid thoughts characteristic of people with severe addiction. In a conversation with the psychiatrist, she admitted that she had been in a state of strong intoxication for 4 days before the crime. In numerous conversations with the doctor, she complained that addiction significantly interfered with her interaction with her children. Gradually, the children became a burden for her, which she tried to get rid of in any way possible, often shifting the care for them onto other people. She constantly called acquaintances, evoking pity, and loved ones always came to her aid. However, according to the psychiatrist's conclusion, it was not only the use of illicit substances that pushed Monica to commit the crime. In the last days before the tragedy, she was under the influence of severe psychosis, paranoia, and delusions of persecution. The defendant was convinced that her daughters were going to be kidnapped, and she herself would be killed. All this was fueled by the story written by Robert. She was most suspicious of the delivery service courier who had come to the apartment the day before. Monica confessed to the psychiatrist in prison that she had found the exact time in the book when the perpetrators would come and try to take the girls into slavery. This symptom was known to doctors as the countdown idea, a condition in which the patient finds secret messages in ordinary things and has an unshakable belief in the inevitability of certain events. A telling example was the situation when, after one of the daughters fell ill during a visit to Roxanne, Monica categorically claimed that the child had been deliberately poisoned. The turning point was Robert's message about the need for his departure to Alaska instead of the expected return home. Monica perceived this as a final sign that her children were doomed to enslavement. She made increasingly desperate attempts to save the twins but eventually concluded that even if she could protect them from her fiancé, she could still lose them due to a court decision to transfer custody to her ex-husband. In this state, Monica came to a terrible decision, to kill her daughters, which she did, after which she tried to commit suicide and set the apartment on fire. At the same time, her actions indicated a certain level of awareness. She carefully thought out how to block the door with the children's bodies to make it difficult for rescuers to access, and she set the apartment on fire only after the murder, trying to hide traces of the crime. Another psychiatrist, having evaluated the results of communication with the criminal, concluded that she had acted in a state of insanity. In his opinion, at the moment of the brutal murder, Monica sincerely believed that she was saving her children. Her actions were guided by distorted moral principles, while she was not aware of the legal consequences of her actions. It is important to note that during communication with the psychiatrist, the woman did not hear voices in her head and did not show a desire for self-harm. As a result of the examination, she was diagnosed with psychosis and a schizophrenia spectrum disorder, and treatment with neuroleptics and antidepressants was prescribed. On October 25, 2011, while in prison, Monica shared with one of her cellmates that she had begun to hear voices in her head. By November, she developed paranoid thoughts about a possible attack, and in April 2012, an overdose occurred right in the prison facility. Monica claimed that she received illicit substances from prison guards. The situation was aggravated by the fact that she consumed up to 12 cups of coffee a day. Everyone who came into contact with the child killer, from cellmates to guards, noted her inadequate state. She constantly complained about being persecuted by prison gangs, persistently sought communication with medical personnel and other prison staff, providing them with contradictory, confused, and sometimes outright nonsensical information. Her condition significantly worsened after she found a way to obtain illicit substances in prison. The trial was substantially delayed due to lengthy psychiatric examinations and became extremely convoluted. The biological father of the children, participating in the process, insisted on the most severe punishment for the defendant, who had taken the lives of the little ones with such cruelty. The decisive word remained with the jury. After hours of debate, the jury found that Monica had acted consciously when she killed her 3-year-old children. On June 15, 2012, she was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder. During the sentencing, the killer sobbed uncontrollably. On October 3 of the same year, addressing the court, Monica stated that she prayed for everyone and asked for well-being, although she herself felt only deterioration of her condition. She emphasized her boundless love for her daughters, explaining her actions by a distorted perception of reality due to known problems. The defendant's mother also spoke before the court, describing her daughter's difficult childhood. She insisted that Monica had serious mental problems from an early age and emphasized the need for her treatment in a specialized clinic instead of imprisonment. Although Monica faced the death penalty, the judge sentenced her to 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. Serving her sentence in a California prison, she has repeatedly tried to appeal the verdict. She is currently in remission regarding her mental illnesses and has refused to use substances, focusing on her role as a mentor for newly arrived inmates. On August 22, 2019, an online petition appeared addressed to the Governor of California, requesting the cancellation of Monica's sentence. The authors of the petition referred to the conclusions of most psychiatric experts who had studied the case and concluded that the woman was insane at the time of the crime. However, the petition was signed by only 144 people, and Monica remains behind bars. If you liked my work, subscribe to the channel, support this video with a like, and let's discuss this story in the comments. I also recommend watching these videos. Thank you all, and goodbye. Please write your thoughts and reactions in the comments below. For those who are new here, subscribing is the best way to stay updated on future content. Also give a like please. Take care of yourself and your loved ones. Thank you for your support during this difficult time. Until next time, friends.